Hello. I just started making another little video here. I want to talk about our little social system here. Basically, those of you who would call me a food stamp leech, a lazy bum, things like that. Yeah, I'm on Social Security disability. The reasons why aren't important. I've got a couple of physical problems and things like that. Anyway, basically right now, especially during these days here in Wisconsin, there are no jobs, okay? Almost none whatsoever. You look at the want ads in the paper, or you go to any of these hiring sites on the web, and those aren't really jobs. No, they're Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, janitorial services, crappy little things like that. Now, you work for a place like that, or even, I used to have a couple of neighbors that no longer live here because of unemployment, who were working for the landlord. He was doing maintenance work, stuff like that. A lot of it dangerous, and a lot of it against the law. He'd get in anywhere from 15 to 50 hours a week. That's 15 to 50 hours a week. He could never depend on a certain amount of hours. So therefore, he could never depend on a definite paycheck. I used to work for a company called Neighborhood Services, ran by a childhood friend of mine, Bruce Fleshman. A stupid, evil person who would want me to come over to his house at 9 a.m., get ready for the job. Now at 9 a.m., I'd get there, generally about 8:30 usually, and I'd sit there on his couch while he eats breakfast, and while he farts around, reading his newspaper, crap like that, talking to his wife and the kids, stuff like that. And I just sit there and watch TV. It wasn't until about 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock, when we actually went out. And then he'd stop at the store, and he'd do stuff. And then he'd stop somewhere else and do something. Now, I didn't get paid until we actually got to the job site. So for 3 or 4 hours a day, I was not being paid. I just had to hang out with him, doing nothing. We didn't get to the job site a lot of times till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, something like that. It was craziness. There's been other jobs where you get to the job site, or to, let's say, a factory, and you punch in on time, 8 o'clock in the morning generally, or 7:30, whatever the case was, 7 o'clock sometimes, and they've got no work for you to do. So they just send you down to the cafeteria, clock you out, and tell you just wait for something to come up. So now you're sitting there in this cafeteria, not being paid, and you're not supposed to go home, because if you go home, well, then you're going to be called absent for that day, which is grounds for firing you. and there's no reason to stay there because you're not being paid to be there. I call these places, unreliable incomes. You cannot depend on them. 1 week you may get a real good paycheck, because you've worked a lot of hours that week. But the next week you may have been there for 40, 45, maybe even up to 50 hours, but you're only going to get paid for 30 hours because they didn't have things in place to actually have you work. Now, I call that an unreliable income. You can't depend on it. You have no idea what your paycheck is going to be for that particular week because you're not sure how many hours you're actually going to get. It's not a real job. That bullcrap is what it is. Now, years ago, when I worked in the foundries, General Castings and Grady Foundry, I belonged to a union, which means when I punch my time card in, I get paid from that minute until I punch back out 8 or 9 hours later. The union made that happen. I may sit there on downtime for 45 minutes. Generally, the bosses have a tendency to get you to find something for you to do. If nothing else, push a broom around the shop. Just to have you do something to earn your money. Pushing a broom is fine. That's great, But if I wasn't sandblasting or grinding or whatever it was in the foundry, I was pushing a broom, and it's all good, Who cares? I was still making my full wages, and I was busy doing something, so it's a good thing. However, in a non-union shop, they can punch your time card out whenever they want to. They don't have to pay you a specific wage. They don't have to have you come in 5 days a week. They can have you come in 4 days a week and work you 12 hours a day. Or they can have you work 5 hours a day, 3 days a week, which simply means you're not going to get a full paycheck. Most of us have a tendency to live on our own, so we pay rent or a mortgage or whatever the case may be. We need to put gas in the car. We need to put food in our refrigerators. In my case, I have a pet that I need to feed each and every day, at least once, hopefully twice. We've got bills that we got to pay, electricity, gas, credit card bills. We want to be able to have a few extra bucks, around for cigarettes, soda pop, beer, whatever. Be able to go out and maybe rent a new movie. That's always nice to have. See, I can do these things on my disability check. With a job, you can't always do that. My daughter, whose husband was working for Cement Placement Company, a company I used to work for briefly years ago, had to move back in with his parents again because he was doing real good during the summer. I suppose he was probably working like 10, 12, maybe up to 14 hours a day, bringing in big money and stuff like that, and then in the fall, or close to winter probably, I'm thinking it was closer to winter when I heard, he was laid off. Just completely cut off. No income whatsoever. Now, I'm not sure what kind of arrangement he had with them, whether he was being paid cash or whether he was actually on the payroll. If he was on the payroll, he would at least get the unemployment checks. But if they were just paying him cash, he just lost out. Had no income whatsoever. But at any rate, they had to move back to his parents' house. They lost their apartment. They couldn't afford to live there anymore. One thing great about being on disability is that I at least get the same amount of money. It's not much money, but at least it's the same amount of money that I can depend on each and every month, regardless. No matter what else comes up in the world, I'm going to get this $900 some odd per month. Which is really almost more than I made working at a lot of these crappy jobs I had. A lot of these jobs I had didn't pay but $400 or $500 a month. I mean, it was bull crap. One of the last jobs I had was working at McDonald's, for crying out loud. Oh, that was horrible. They only paid me like $450 a month. I couldn't get decent hours. I couldn't get hardly anything out of them. Before that, I was a truck driver. I used to make between $1,200 and $1,500 a month, which is another thing. $1,200, $1,500 a month is a lot of money, but when you're used to $1,500 a month, and then you hit a slow month and you get $1,200, oh, that's a hell of a drop. How do you make up that extra $300? You don't. You just can't, because you're just told, at the last hour there that, okay, well, we're not going to need you next week or whatever. Got nothing going. The jobs are just, you cannot depend on them. There's absolutely nothing dependable about them. Now you can, take your $1,200, $1,500 a month, and stash a lot of it away and stuff like that, but when you come from a job where you're making only $400 or $500 a month into this job where you're making $1,200, $1,500 a month, you've got a lot of catch up to do, So you're spending all that money. You're spending your $1,200, $1,500 a month, trying to acquire some of the things or trying to pay off some of the things that you've already, bought, or you're trying to accumulate the things, that you haven't been able to get. It's ridiculous. I'm at a point in my life now. I'm 59 years old. I really don't see why I ever worked for a living in my life. It makes no sense. I would have done better, robbing stores or whatever. At least I wouldn't have to put in as much time. And I wouldn't have had to worry about, where I'm going to come up with next month's rent. Because it would be there. But trying to work for a living these days, it's stupid. Plain ordinarily stupid. when I worked for neighborhood services. But that had to have been one of the worst jobs I ever had in my entire damn life. You know, I mean, in the fall, you know you're going to get laid off, you know, or your hours are going to be drastically reduced. And he'd complain at me because I was using up time applying for a winter job. Well, where were you Tuesday? So I was doing interviews. Well, what the hell are you doing interviews for? You work here. Yeah, for what? 15 hours a week? That's going to end in maybe about 2 weeks or a month from now? So? He doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand. You know, that you cannot survive on that kind of crap. How he survives all winter long beats the shit out of me. And then on top of it, the guy's been cheating on his wife, you know, I mean, ever since before he was married. I've known the guy since high school. He's always considered me one of his best friends. He's not one of my best friends. Never has been, never will be. Too much of an asshole. But the man has never been faithful to a woman in his entire life. He's always had his wife and a girlfriend on the side. Always. I've known 3 or 4 of them. I may not always know their names, like this last floozy he was with over on Park Avenue, East Park Avenue. He told me her name once, but I didn't pay any attention. I forgot whatever the case was. But that is why there's unions. When you have a union, you're guaranteed your 40 hours a week. You're guaranteed a minimum wage above the federal minimum wage. You're guaranteed your holidays off. You're guaranteed no work abuses. In other words, your boss cannot come up, slap you in the back of the head, you know, and say, do it right now, you know. These are things that the unions prevent. In a non-union shop, they can go off on you, you know, and they can make you feel like an idiot, you know, in front of everybody, call you names, all that other crap stuff, and you got nobody to complain to. Oh yeah, you go to his supervisor, but his supervisor's probably going to do the same damn thing to you. You know, there's absolutely no protections in a non-union shop. Which is why I prefer to only work for union places. Take my word for it. I've worked in both. I worked for union shops. I worked for non-union shops. A lot of non-union shops. And those non-union shops are not worth working for. They're not at all. Again, I'll repeat. In a non-union shop, if they don't have any, let's say they get a truck coming in, you know, with raw materials, stuff like that they want you, or let's say you're just working for like a furniture store, and they get a truck coming in. It's going to bring a whole bunch of furniture, you know, that needs to be, you know, unboxed, set up in the showroom, whatever the case is. And the truck is late. Now, they don't have to pay you till the truck gets there. You may get there at 8 a.m. And truck may not get there till 10:15 a.m. So from 8 a.m. to 10:15 a.m., you're not getting paid, but you're there at work. That's wrong. No, if I'm there at work, I'm going to get paid. I'll push a broom. I'll clean the toilets. I don't give a crap, I'll fiddle around whatever the hell you want me to fiddle around with, move stuff around the warehouse, whatever the case is, whatever. I don't really care. It's your time. You're paying me. I'll do it. I don't really give a crap. But a non-union shop, no. They'll tell you to sit down in the lunchroom, whatever like that, and spend money on soda pops and, don't smoke in the lunchroom. No, you want to smoke, you go out in the parking lot. But don't leave the parking lot, because we got a truck coming in, and you're going to get paid for unloading that truck. But you're not going to get paid till the truck gets here. Yeah, right. That's stupid. No, if I'm not getting paid, I might as well be home. Okay, at home I can do my laundry, I can walk my dog, I can go grocery shopping, and do things, that I need to do. Sitting in your warehouse or in your lunchroom, I can't do that stuff. I can do nothing but sit there and waste my day. And you're wasting my day when you're not paying me. So now, why would anybody want to work for a non-union shop? Does it make any sense to you? Sit there in a lunchroom doing nothing? Not being at home? No, it makes no sense. If you're not paying me, I'm going home. Bye. Have a good day. And that's basically all I want to say for this point in time. I will not ever work for a non-union shop again. And, okay, let's go on with this here now. Under Governor Walker, Walker decided he needed to crush unions here in Wisconsin. Now, he hasn't completely done it, but he seriously wants to crush unions. Which means that nobody has an incentive to work other than to just pay the rent, buy some food, and survive. That's the only incentive they have. Because you're not going to enjoy the job. The job is going to suck so damn bad that very few are even going to want to do it. So there's really no incentive to work at all. And yet Walker is crushing unions. So he's basically putting the entire damn state on welfare, where people are sitting around a lunchroom or a warehouse on their butts, not doing anything, not getting paid for it, and not being at home doing what they can do there. Not being able to go grocery shopping, not being able to watch their children while their wife is off at work. Nothing. They're just sitting there in a doggone warehouse or lunchroom or whatever like that, just waiting to go to work, not being paid for it. That is why unions are so much necessary. Nobody wants to sit at work being punched in and not being paid for it. That is just the height of stupidity. And take my word for it. Whether you know it or not, they are punching your time out. They may not tell you, but if you keep a separate record of your hours worked, from the time that you start the job till the time you actually get back to the warehouse and are able to leave and go home. You know, minus your half-hour lunchtime, whatever. You're working a whole lot more hours than what you're being paid for. That's just the way the system works. That's the way they do you. That's how far up your ass they stick their dick, okay? You compare it. Keep a notebook. I've done that in the past. And I've complained to the boss. And that's when when you complain, that's when you start figuring out how they think. You know, well, yeah, but you were just sitting on the dock smoking cigarettes, so I didn't pay you. Oh, there was nothing to do. The truck wasn't here. Well, yeah, so you weren't working. I said, yeah, I was here at work, okay? You pay me when I'm here at work. You know, give me a broom, I'll push it. Give me a toilet brush, I'll clean the damn toilets. You know, but you don't just set me out there in a damn dock to smoke a cigarette and stuff like this, you know, and not pay me, and then say I can't go anywhere because the truck is coming. That don't work, okay? That's stupid. Okay. I gotta stop and figure out how to shut this thing down.